Hey everyone, welcome to the investor.bet NRL Round 10 betting trends preview. Here we're going to look at all the games coming up this weekend from a betting perspective. I'm going to go through what I'm considering betting on these games, but for each one, importantly, I'm going to go through some information that then you can use to make your betting decisions. We're going to look at each game, the history between the two sides, what the odds were last time they met, who's been winning but who's been covering the spread, and have their games been going over or under. We'll also look at the recent trends for these sides leading into these games and touch on some of the stats of how these teams have been performing. All the tools I use to bet on the NRL are based on statistics, and you can use all the same tools I do through the NRL bet finders, which are available through the link in the description. Looking at the first game, so Thursday night, we have the Eels versus Dolphins. Parramatta, small favorites here, $1.80, minus 1.5 point favorites, and the total is 48.5. This is the first time this season Parramatta are favorite. Obviously, that they'll need to stay favorite until kickoff on Thursday night for it to be a game, as I track everything based off the closing line when the game gets underway. Right now, they're favorites. But coming into this game, they have won 2 of their last 4, but lost their first game off the bye to the Sharks last week, 28-18. Parramatta haven't led at halftime in any game so far this season. The closest they came was when they were tied with the Tigers back in round 7. Parramatta have covered the spread in 4 of their past 6 games, so have been beating the odds makers a little bit more in recent times. And then the Redcliffe Dolphins, they come into this game now losing 2 straight against the Roosters and Raiders. Prior to that, they won 3 in a row, beating the Storm, Panthers, and Titans. And have been another side that have been rarely favourite this year. They've only been favoured on 2 occasions, which they in fact lost both of those games. So all 3 wins they had have been as an underdog. The concern with the Dolphins is that they've conceded 36 last week and 40 the week prior. And I don't think they'll concede that many against Parramatta, but Parramatta should find points fairly comfortably. The Eels have now risen to just under 17 points a game this season, largely thanks to that 38 points they got against the Tigers. If they can find 24, 26 points here against the Dolphins, it'll give them a really good chance of winning. They'll need to find that score though, because I can't see them keeping the Dolphins to a number under that. This is a game that I think will really come down to the wire. I'll be looking at your try bets here, either side to win by 1-10 or 1-12. Don't think there'll be a huge deal between the two teams. Previously, they've met twice. Last year, it was up in Darwin with the Dolphins winning 44 points to 16. They've only met on 2 occasions. Parramatta won the first meeting back in round 17, 2023. The away team has won and covered both meetings so far. To me personally, the value probably slightly lies with the Dolphins. They've shown better glimpses this season of what they can do. So if I had to go either way, I'd probably lean towards the Dolphins at this stage. I'm not taking into consideration team announcements at this point. Both meetings have gone over with the total at 48.5. I'd be leaning slightly towards the over for this game. The Eels, 2 of their past 3 games have gone over, and for the Dolphins, their last 3 games have gone over. They're just constantly involved in shootouts. We know Parramatta are still ranked last in terms of points conceded, so there's really no reason Redcliffe can't find points in this game. So that's why I also would lean towards them winning. But obviously, we're early in the week. There's still a lot of time until these games get underway. Knights versus Titans. Newcastle, $1.54 favourites, minus 6.5. And the total is 47.5. Newcastle, coming off a win last week, broke a 5-game losing streak, beating the Rabbitohs 30 points to 4. That was their highest score of the season and also their least points conceded this year. And the Gold Coast Titans, they've now lost 5 in a row. So this is a really important game for both sides. The Titans have conceded 30 or more points in each of their last 5 games, really struggling to stop the opposition scoring against them. Newcastle have a good record here. They've won 3 of the past 4 versus Gold Coast and covered the past 7 at home. So this game being in Newcastle is a big advantage for them. Titans also on a 5-day turnaround here and having to travel, where Newcastle have that 1 extra day's rest after playing on the Saturday last week in Brisbane. I think Knights get over the line here. The key will obviously be for them to limit their number of errors. They give up the most mistakes of all teams in the competition, And also, oppositions make the most mistakes of any team against the Titans. So from that perspective, it's a bad matchup for the Knights. Like, you've got the most errors going up against a team that receive the most errors from their opponent that can take advantage of that. But if Newcastle implements similar attacking style of last week while still making errors, they actually convert that into line breaks and points. I think they'll get over the line here. I think they'll break too many tackles. This one other stat that I wanted to share with you. Tackle breaks, Knights make the most of any side in the league, and the Titans concede the second most missed tackles. So I think Newcastle should have no issue finding points in this game and will run out comfortable winners. The thing they have to be careful of is Gold Coast can go through patches where they can find points really quickly. They can have 5-10 minutes here and there where they'll run in 3 tries. As long as the Knights avoid that, they'll win this game. From a total perspective, you obviously have the Knights, which are the number 3 defensive side, and the Titans rank 16th. Probably wouldn't play like a total on this game as it currently stands, because I think Newcastle will run up a bit of a score here if they really get going similar to last week. This is an easier defensive matchup for them than it was last week against the Rabbitohs. And also, it's their easiest matchup since effectively round 1 when they played the Tigers, but that was based off last year's data. Overall this season, this is the easiest matchup. They have previously met this year, which was at the Gold Coast, where the Titans won 26-6. The other thing with this matchup that I'm happy to ignore a little bit is the fact that the home team has won 14 of the past 15 in this matchup and covered the spread in 18 of the past 19. So that's a very strong trend there in favor of the Knights. Rabbitohs versus Broncos. Important game for both sides here. Broncos $1.30 favorites, minus 10.5, and the total is 47.5 for this game. Rabbitohs come into this losing 4 straight and struggling to score. Over the past 4 weeks, they haven't scored over 16 points and are averaging just 9 points per game. Brisbane are the number 5 defensive side in terms of points conceded, so they should be able to limit this Rabbitohs attack and keep them to a lower score, which would be enough to get them over the line. Rabbitohs have also conceded at least 24 points in each of their last 4 games. Broncos come into this after losing to the Panthers as pretty big favorites last week. They've now lost 3 of their past 4. So when I say it's an important game for both sides, it is an important game for the Broncos. They definitely do need to win this. They have the Dragons after this. The Broncos are on a 5-day turnaround, so that's not really ideal. Rabbitohs will have a 1-day rest advantage. The Broncos do have the good record against South Sydney. They've won 4 of the past 6. And last time they met, the Rabbitohs won that game. But the last time they did meet, the Rabbitohs won, which was round 15 of last season. South Sydney won 22-12. Broncos won the home fixture for them in round 2, 28-18. You do need to go back to the previous matchup in Sydney, which was 2022 round 9, the last time Broncos beat the Rabbitohs in Sydney. The other games either at Suncorp or on the Sunshine Coast. Expect Brisbane to win this game. They're by far the better attacking side. Rabbitohs just can't find points. Broncos defense should at least limit them. Broncos, like, overall this season aren't giving up like many line breaks or much run meters, which I think is going to be an issue here for the Rabbitohs, as they're not really generating much of either of those either. They rank last in meters per play this season and also last in line breaks and tackle breaks. So, like, obviously, people were disappointed with the Broncos losing to the Panthers last week, but this would be a major red flag if they were to lose this game. So I would be pretty confident they get over the line and win here. Statistically, like, they're a long way in front of the Rabbitohs. Total is 47.5. 2 of the past 3 have gone over between the two sides. Last game, there was only 34 points scored. The game prior at Suncorp that only went over by a smallish margin. Both these sides are big undersides this year. Broncos, 5 of their last 7 games have gone under, and the Rabbitohs, all 9 of their games this season have gone under the total. And like the past couple of weeks, they've started to verse more sides that are capable of scoring points, and it hasn't really made much of a difference to those games going under. So at 47.5, I'd be leaning towards the under, but definitely I think Rabbitohs will be the key side that will struggle to score in this game. Raiders versus Bulldogs. This is a really good game and definitely best match of the round. Raiders are favourites here, $1.70 minus 2.5, and the total is 44.5. Canberra come into this game winning 5 in a row. Beat the Storm as underdogs last week on Sunday night, and winning by 2 points there. They've covered the spread in their past 5 as well. And the Bulldogs come into this matchup only losing the one game this season, which was against the Broncos, where they're now 7-1 on the season. They've been an underdog once this year, which was back in round 4 against the Sharks. They won that game 20 points to 6. This is a really interesting game. I think lineups will definitely be crucial for it. For the Bulldogs, I would lean towards them winning this game. I noticed recently with the Raiders, they're struggling to get off to good starts in games, and they're constantly putting themselves 12 to 16 points behind on the scoreboard through that first half and up until halftime. And the Bulldogs are one of the better first half sides in the competition. They've led at halftime in all but one game. And if Bulldogs get away to a good start, I think on the back of their defense, they'll be able to maintain a margin here against the Raiders. So I like Bulldogs as a little underdog here, even though the Raiders have won 9 of the past 10 and covered the past 3. Bulldogs won the matchup last season, and it was only last year the Bulldogs really started to turn a corner. The Raiders won the Magic Round matchup 24-20, so a small win there for Canberra in the earlier game. But I don't think there's a great deal. I think Bulldogs will win by that 1-12 margin. I don't think it'll be a blowout. Canberra are playing very well, but I can see this being a close-ish game with the Bulldogs getting over the line. 8 of the past 9 head-to-head have been decided by 12 or less. You could also look at try-bets. You do give the Raiders a small chance of winning as well, and either side to win by 1-12. That's probably a good bet on this game too. 3 of the past 4 head-to-head have gone over. The total is 44.5. Do think that's a little bit low. Like, the Bulldogs games have started to become a little bit higher scoring. Teams are scoring a few more points against them than they were during rounds 3 to round 7. And the Raiders have been a little bit up and down, but overall on the season, 5 of their 9 games have gone over. So a slight more so lean towards the over. And the 44.5 number I do think is a touch on the low side. Dragons versus Warriors. Warriors favorites here, $1.68, minus 2.5, and the total is 45.5. Warriors have won 3 straight, and they've won 6 of their past 7, just losing that game against the Storm where they're blown out in the first half. They've also covered the spread in all wins so far this season, and the total is 45.5. Dragons have now lost their past 2 games against the Tigers and Roosters. They've conceded a total of 80 points across those 2 games. So that's the concern here against the Warriors, who, whilst like the best attacking side in the competition, should be able to find points in this game. Their defense was like the key factor for the Dragons in them winning games. When they beat the Storm, kept them to 8 points. When they beat the Titans, kept them to 16. They kept the Seagulls to 18. But that's fallen away a little bit lately. The Warriors are a side that control field position here, and they don't generate big line breaks, but they get the ball down that end of the field, and it can be enough to get them over the line. Dragons aren't good at stopping the opponent from getting too many meters, so I think the Warriors will get over the line here. They've won 2 of the past 3 versus Dragons. Dragons, though, have covered 4 of the past 5. They met once last season in round 7, and the Dragons won 30-12. Last year, the Warriors weren't that great of a side. They're playing a lot better this year, and I think they can get the win here. 11 of the past 16 head-to-head have gone under. The total at 45.5 is exactly the number I have. With those last 16 games, obviously 5 of them have gone over the total to get the 11 to go under. Only one of those 5 games that went over the total went over by more than 6 points. So there's been a real strong history of these games favoring the lower scoring. So you could look at alternate lines and take the unders as well in this game. Dragons' defense is a touch concerning, but I don't think they'll concede 40 points or anything like that against the Warriors this week, but would lean towards the under overall. Cowboys versus Panthers. Panthers, $1.65 favorites, minus 2.5. Total is 48.5. This is a really good game, an important game for both clubs. The Cowboys come into this losing last week against the Warriors by 4 points, but did win 4 games prior to that. They're now 4-4 on the season, so interesting spot here for North Queensland. They've covered the spread in 5 of their last 6. And their last 2 games have gone over. And then for the Panthers, they've now won 2 of their past 3. Games where they are finding points, they're now winning, and their defense has improved in those games that they've won. They were an underdog last week. They're back into favoritism this week. And for the Panthers, 5 of their past 6 games have gone under the total. From a side perspective, Cowboys have won the past 2 versus Penrith, and both of those games were on the road down in Sydney. Earlier this season in round 5, the Cowboys winning 22-18, and then round 17 last year. Up in Townsville, Panthers won their last meeting there 26-20, and the game prior to that up there was round 16 2023, and the Panthers lost by 4 points. The Cowboys winning at home as $1.80 favorites. I think this is a game that really could go either way. The Panthers are a little bit unpredictable of which team's going to turn up. The past 3 games have been complete polar opposites week to week. Statistically, the numbers slightly favor Penrith, so I do agree with them being small favorites, but obviously you have to factor in the home field advantage for North Queensland, plus the fact that the Cowboys come into this game with an extra day's rest as well, and Panthers are on back-to-back road games. But if Penrith play like they did against the Broncos last week, they'll beat the Cowboys. So that's the question you just need to ask yourself in terms of which way you want to bet on this game. The total, 48.5. 7 of the past 11 head-to-head have gone under. I think this number is exactly where it needs to be. I have the number at 48.1 for this game based on the stats. So I'm not really keen on a total at this stage for that game. Storm versus Tigers. Storm big favorites, $1.20 minus 14.5. And the total is 51.5 for this game. Melbourne hit a bit of a flat spot. They've lost 2 of their past 3 games now. They haven't scored over 24 points after having back-to-back games with 42 and 48 points back in rounds 5 and 6. They get the opportunity to get their attack rolling again here against the Tigers, who are a good defensive side this year, but not like they've dropped off a little bit lately. They have conceded 26 or more in 5 of their past 6 games. It was just the Knights they kept to a low score, and also they kept the Sharks to 18. But I think the Storm at home, Storm rarely ever lose games back-to-back, so they'll get the win here at home. Whether they win by 15 or more points to cover the line, I'm not super confident in them doing that. I'd rather just taking them to win as opposed to win by a big margin. Spoke about in the review of last week, Storm really didn't want to put Canberra away in that game. They were a little bit tentative in attack and weren't playing with as much explosive. Obviously conditions played into that a little bit as well, but don't want to play a big handicap for them on this game. Total 51.5 for this game. You'd obviously expect a high total. Both these sides are top 5 defensive sides, so one of them is going to have major laps for this to go over this kind of number. So I do think it is a little bit high, but both sides have been fairly big over teams. Tigers, 5 of their 7 games going over the total, and the Storm, they've gone under their past 2, but 5 of their 8 games have gone over on the season. I think it's probably a couple of points high, but nothing too major to have a confident bet. But Storm to get over the line. The previous matchups have all been blowouts. Storm winning the past 7 and the past 6 have been 10-plus point margins. So history tells us the Storm will win and win comfortably, but I think they'll do enough to win the game, and that'll be enough for Melbourne there. And then final game, Seagulls versus Sharks. Manly are $1.70 favorites minus 2.5, and the total is 48.5. Manly come into this off the bye, but Sharks do have extended rest, having played on the Friday night last week. But Manly will obviously have the rest advantage overall. The Seagulls have lost 3 of their past 4, but did win against the Panthers going into the bye 26-10. And 4 of their past 5 games have gone under. And then for the Sharks, they've been a big underside as well. They've had 7 of their last 8 games go under. Sharks have turned a bit of a corner. They've won 3 of their past 4 games. The only loss in Golden Point against the Tigers. You could also go back to round 5 where they lost right on the final play of the game virtually against the Raiders. So overall, Sharks sit at 5-4 on the season, but could easily be 7-2 had those couple of moments gone their way instead. Like the Sharks as an underdog here, they've won and covered 5 of the past 6 versus Manly, and won and covered the past 4 at 4 Pines Park, so at this venue. The Sharks won the game earlier this season in Perth, 24-18. That really wasn't that long ago, and about a month ago. And even though Manly are at home, that game being at a neutral venue last time, Sharks had their game won. The late try for Manly bridged the margin back to 12 points, but Sharks won that game pretty comfortably in the end, and I do like them as underdogs here. They're the number 2 defensive side, give up the second least number of tries, and I think Manly may struggle a little bit. If they come out a little bit flat off the bye, then Sharks can build a margin here, and on the back of their defense, hold on to it. Better forward pack lies with the Sharks as well in this game in terms of meters gained and post-contact meters. I think they can get over the line. I think the value lies with them as the underdog. Total at 48.5. 8 of the past 12 head-to-head have gone over, but both these sides favoring under trend so far this season. They lean towards going under the 48.5. I think it's probably 1 to 2 points too high a total as it currently stands. I spoke about it in the review. You don't really ever need to rush into backing totals. So if you are thinking about backing a total points line in the game, wait until closer to game time. See how other games go in that round and use that as information as well. Hopefully this video gave you some insights into the games coming up this weekend that you can use with your bets. If you want more information like this, check out the link in the description for the best bets. That's where you get everything I'm exactly betting with the plays, plus additional previews and access to all the Bet Finder tools, which you can use for analyzing matches of who's going to win and where the strengths and weaknesses are, and also for analyzing try scorers and where the good matches are for certain teams. They have a good matchup on the left or the right and that kind of thing, which we talk about in the try scorer preview, which will be coming out very soon. Thanks guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.